Hello and welcome. I'm Erica Riggs, attorney and partner at Disability Law Group, and this is our podcast, Disability Lawyers for the Community. This is our very first podcast episode, and today we have Joseph Tasse joining us. Joe is the current CEO of Southwest Solutions, a nonprofit near and dear to my heart and the hearts of many other people, especially in and around Southwest Detroit, because of the critical work that they do helping people most in need, from children's literacy programs to mental health services to providing homes for veterans, many of whom were previously homeless. Mr. Tasse, welcome, and thank you for joining us today and for the important work that you do for our city and our most vulnerable populations.
Great.
Let's kick off this episode with you sharing about yourself, your background, and how you came to Southwest Solutions.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Erica. Appreciate being here. I'm a long-term kind of a healthcare person. I spent most of my career in acute care hospitals, and I really came to Southwest Solutions back in 2014 when I was asked to sit on the Southwest Counseling Solutions board. That had a close relation to me. I've worked in behavioral medicine for a long time as part of the acute care side, and so I did that, and then I had sort of left the acute care business after many years and started doing some interim CEO work around the country, really. And long story short, fast forward, John Van Camp, who was the long-term visionary and CEO of Southwest Solutions, retired, I think after 45 years, and they needed an interim. So I think I was working in Colorado at the time, was back to Detroit and was available. And they said, Joe, you know the organization, you love the organization. Could you jump in and do this work? So that's what I've been doing since toward the end of 2018, and still going strong. So that's kind of my quick history, with how I got here and I guess why I'm here. And I appreciate your comments as well, because I know you've been very, committed to social justice and a lot of the work that we do, kind of me the same, I guess kind of have the social justice gene in us. And
Yes.
just seeing that, you once your eyes are open, you see the phenomenal needs that people have out there that many don't see. It's easy to get, sheltered from that. In fact, I think a lot of what we're seeing in the country now with the kind of a raising of social consciousness and social awareness around some of the aspects of law enforcement and other people's eyes get open. But if you're in the space and you see it, you have to say, how can I help that? So it's kind of my, my motivation as well for Southwest Solutions, that I thought was probably one of the most socially just and organizations on the planet, and really working toward racial equality, because some of the work we do, trying to move people up and through, try to give people a chance to maybe even step out of poverty, which is really a underpinning anchor that keeps individuals and families down. And Southwest does that work. So how could I not work with Southwest Solutions?
Exactly. Well, it's certainly clear, Joe, that you bring a wealth of experience in both the healthcare and your nonprofit experience in those industries, as well as your compassion just for helping others. Now, having witnessed the interworkings of other industries and organizations, what are you most proud of? Or put differently, what about Southwest Solutions makes you excited to get out of bed and get to work?
Yeah, it's, we used to kid and have a little button that said, I love my job. But it really is. It really is motivating. I think probably the most motivating thing for me is the other, people that work at Southwest Solutions. Their staff, at all levels, right? We have professional support staff, as you mentioned, mental health, housing, economic development, and so forth. People are really committed and excited about the mission. These are folks that, could be working elsewhere, making more money. But they've committed themselves to the mission And the mission is, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's really to try to help enhance people's quality of life, and work with them toward their own self-sufficiency. So I usually use the parable of this, you want to teach people to fish, not just give them the fish. I mean, we're about that as well. There's never a feeling at Southwest that says, okay, you're a client, we want you to be a client forever. No, we want to help you move along to become independent and self-sufficient, so that we can work and take care of others. I think the probably the biggest accomplishment, I say this a lot, is there's not a lot of people and companies, you know, lining up to do this work. And the reason I say that is because it's not profitable work. Many of the business models are kind of unstructurally sound, really, because the revenue streams are often soft, and so it's a hustle game all the time uh, to find the dollars, be it grants, philanthropy, support. We have some billings that we do on the mental health side, but for the most part, it's we're. I tell the staff is this is a great job because you get to work as hard as you can every day for the pleasure to serve. And so it's great that podcasts like Disability Attorneys are doing, is to further raise awareness about the work that organizations like ours do and the needs that we have and the importance to the community and to society as a whole. And the other thing I might mention is, I say this too, uh, it's not necessarily only an altruistic role that we play. I look at it from an economic role too. There are people in our city that have talents, and these talents are untapped, and we need to find them, get them to a point where we can bring them into the workforce, and get them to be self-sufficient. They may have mental health issues and so forth, because this really was hitting before the pandemic. We knew that we had a workforce shortage in the city of Detroit with the growth, and that's going to come back. And so we need to be working with our people who are here to prepare them for the jobs that are out there. And I could go on and on about what's going to be exploding here in jobs. It was starting to explode before the pandemic. We just have to now get through this to return. So kind of a different look on the importance of the work.
Absolutely.
Right.
And, here at Disability Law Group, our attorneys, our partners, and our staff, we see these types of problems.
Right.
We're inundated within the industry. We're in the trenches, if you will, with regards to the lack of mental health services and the supports and just the overall stigma associated with that. And, for people who perhaps aren't familiar, as you mentioned earlier on, Southwest Solutions Foundation was built upon a passion and a commitment to helping the poor and disenfranchised, and has really just blossomed from there
Yeah.
tremendously. And what specifically does Southwest Solutions do today in terms of the human and economic development and the community engagement, which are really, as you said, the three pillars of
Right,
focus?
right. And let me just a quick second on you. You mentioned the history. We started in 1970, so this is our 50th year anniversary this year
Wow.
in the pandemic. And we really started. There was a fellow by the name of Monsignor Clement Kern, who was the pastor of Most Holy Trinity Church,
Mhm.
right at sort of Trumbull and Sixth Street, if you know the city, kind of
Right.
in that Corktownish area. And we're non-sectarian, so we're not religious oriented today. But Senior Kern is kind of seen as our founder, because his approach was to try to bring all peoples together, and he did it probably as related to church. So he had the business people, the homeless, the immigrants, and so forth. And his mode was, hey, in the end, we're pretty much all the same. You start peeling the onion back. And so he did that from a community standpoint, and we've kind of taken that on over the years. And as we developed into started a community mental health agency coming out of President Kennedy's legislation in the 60s, the Community Mental Health Act, to be able to take care of people in the community. And so we model that today, and even part of our annual event each year, we give out the Clement Kern award for that. So just a bit of
Mhm.
historical background, I think, that's maybe interesting to people. But As you said, what are our business lines? I guess, and there are threefold. We have a mental health division. That's our Southwest Counseling Solutions. We have a housing division, Southwest Housing Solutions, and we have a sort of a workforce home ownership support, which is Southwest Economic Solutions, which I know you're very familiar with, as well. And those are really our three kind of books of business, if you will. And on the mental health side, we really take care of what's called the seriously mentally ill, the SMI population. So these are folks. This is not like you and me that are the worried well. um, Everybody goes through their life needing some sort of mental health care. It's like physical health. You get sick, get treatment, take care of it. Same thing's true with mental health, but we don't realize that because of some of the stigma that's out there often in mental health. But it is true, and you know that, and I know that, and we know people and family members that know that. So we take care of folks that have schizophrenia problems. They maybe have severe bipolar disorder, severe depression. I mean, some of the really clinically diagnosable mental illnesses that really become debilitating, that don't allow people to function in society. Some of them are managed with drugs. We used to put people in mental hospitals, and the stories historically are not really great, for how people were often treated in the state mental hospitals. But with the advance and introduction of the technology of psychotropic drugs, you could manage your disease. Just like if you have severe hypertension, you take a beta blocker, an ACE inhibitor, and you function normally. So that has changed over the years, and we're still trying to promote that as community mental health. So that's the mental health side. The other piece of counseling is we have what we call a housing resource center, which really works with folks on rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing in support. Because we found in the mental health world, there's a concept called housing first. And the thinking there is, if you don't have a place, if you don't have housing, you're not going to go too far with kind of addressing some of your behavioral, medical needs. So housing became very important. It is in the city. There's a whole, network that we work with. And we're the lead agency helping, coordinate the support and placement of homeless folks in the city of Detroit. We run the divisions called the CAM, Coordinated Access Model, which is somewhat of a clearinghouse, like a triage phone center for people who are homeless to call and access us. And then we broker out to different agencies where there are vacancies and opportunities for people to get housing. So, we handle that. We also work with, we have a supportive services for veterans and families division, which is, again, heavily about rapid rehousing and some income supports. But a lot of the work that you do, it kind of overlaps into that whole immediate basic needs assistance for people. And then the third in that is we also started 10 years ago. It's 10-year anniversary of Paquette Square, which is a very innovative, it's a 150 unit living facility for previously homeless veterans. So in order to qualify, you have to be not just a veteran, but previously homeless. And that is really a cool, facility that's now in its 10th year. In fact, I was there yesterday. They had a little recognition ceremony for some of the, tenants there. And it's really pretty cool. And in that, we really work with vets to try to work on some of their social and needs that they have, but really working to and their housing needs. So they have a lot of them are in supportive housing and the supports, and we try to help them with all that, as well as to help them work toward some maybe reintegration into society. And there are different levels. I mean, we've had some of the veterans who working on their degrees, and others are on a very basic level. So we kind of do that as well. So that's the counseling piece. That's item number one. And business two is housing. And the development of housing was pretty interesting because, and I kind of alluded to that. We were pretty heavy into the mental health world, and the recognition was, hey, people need to be housed. So we had first started a housing division within counseling. And as it grew, it then grew to a scope and scale that it said needed its own division. So we broke it off, and now we a separate corporate, separate 501c3 corporation is Southwest Housing Solutions, right? Headed by Tim Thorlin, who's just a journeyman housing guy, working with low-income housing tax credits and really knows all the ins and outs of that. Um, but we like to think we're one of the leading developers in the Detroit area of developing, affordable housing. We've got a long track record of, over 1,000 folks that we've helped and have done that. We also, in that division, work on sort of renovating homes that we may have acquired through the land bank. So these might have been vacated homes that people just abandoned. We'll try to renovate them and then make them available at low rate for individuals to acquire low income, mid to low income housing, low income families to be able to to have a home, right? So that's a
Right.
pretty cool operation. And nationally, these are called REOs, real estate owned homes, and kind of has some HUD implications and so forth. We do that. And then I think the third in that gets a little bit in the support. We offer like home buyer counseling, um, uh, foreclosure prevention, financial counseling, mortgage lending, which kind of blends into our third division, which is Southwest Economic Solutions, which is really all about home ownership support and those services I just mentioned, um, as well as um, doing other things like um, um, learning aspects. We call it workforce development, getting people ready to enter the workforce. We got that on different levels. Um, we work with folks on GED preparation, sort of adult basic education. English as a second language is a big thing. We have a couple of learning labs in the community that community members can participate in. We offer tutoring, and so forth. There's a neat program called Earn and Learn. We have some youth programs. One is Youth Build, where kids who are 16 to 24 who are otherwise just out there hanging out can get some training in some of the skills trades to then be able to get into the job market, either as a apprentice carpenter or a worker in that regard, and work toward a job. So to me, that's also creating hope for people to say, hey, maybe there is light at the end of this tunnel that I'm in. And that's really a cool part of what Southwest Economic Solutions does. They also have we call it Center for Working Families, to help low-income families reach financial stability. So it's a lot of education, accessing supports, maybe helping identify job opportunities, and so forth. So, I mean, you can see kind of the blending. The evolution of SWES, Southwest Economic Solutions, also came out of our mental health thinking, because once people are placed, then they really need to have viability in terms of job. Maybe they need support on, hey, how do I afford and finance my place, and how do I understand it? How do I stay in the place?
Mhm.
Right now, we're working with the city now and some of the tax abatement rules that Mike Duggan had instituted. That's been hugely helpful to people just to stay in their home, because you can lose your home by being in arrears with your real estate tax. You get that knock on the door, and you open the door and somebody nailed a poster to it that says, you have to vacate. That happens. And so we really try to work to help people, through that, also. So sorry to be long winded, but that kind of gives you the three, our three divisions that kind of comprise Southwest Solutions.
Thank you, Joe. That history is so important, and so much of what you said hits home here with our law firm specializing strictly in Social Security disability benefits, SSI, and veterans disability benefits. When someone becomes disabled, it can sometimes be what we see a domino effect. You
Right.
suffer a health crisis, a disability, an injury, and you can't keep your job. You struggle to provide even basic needs for your family, a roof over your head, and even just food on the table. And it starts to affect a person mentally many times. dealing with the emotional and psychological component of that. And it's important for the community to know about these critical, comprehensive support services. And that's why we felt it was appropriate to highlight Southwest Solutions in our very first episode. And just turning to maybe a personal note here, your role is heavily involved and heavily invested in terms of your time, your heart, your energy. Has your family been supportive and maybe even involved in some of Southwest Solutions programs and events?
Well, I have two kids, they're kind of grown though. They're obviously out of the house. My son lives in Chicago. My daughter lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. So they're supported, but they're not involved, right? My wife has come to some of the events, some of the volunteer events, with me. You're right though. This is pretty all consuming, and I'm pretty much an all in person. So, um, I mean, probably like you want to talk about the hours you're putting in, but you really don't think about it. It's kind of getting the
Mhm.
work done, and you kind of see some of the outcomes of, what's happening. And, they say when you're really engaged, the days go fast. And I'll tell you, the days go rocket fast for me.
Right, so
Uh,
true.
you know, so it's pretty cool there.
And I previously, you mentioned this earlier, and most recently served on Southwest Solutions Board of Economic Solutions and their Public Policy Committee, where our goal was to leverage the programs and the funding to really optimize the economic impact of Southwest Solutions to be able to help more people as efficiently and effectively as possible. But even prior to that, probably about a decade or a little longer now, when I was still in law school. At that time, I was a co-founding director of a nonprofit called the 313 Project, where our mission was to connect the legal community to Detroit's underserved populations through our own pro bono, charitable, and educational efforts. And it was shortly thereafter that we discovered Southwest Solutions, and we thought, wow, this is exactly the type of community developing and resource providing organizations that we need to connect with. More people need to know about this. And what I have found is that many people want to be involved with, the true, honest, do good work out there, but they don't always know the best way to plug in or, with what organization might be the most meaningful to them, right? So tell us a little bit about the ways that people can get involved with Southwest Solutions work and help support Southwest Solutions, even if they may have never heard of Southwest Solutions prior to this podcast.
Yeah, thank you for that. We, I mean, you and I were talking earlier about we have some volunteer opportunities like our neighborhood beautification day that we do each year. So we probably assemble, I don't know how many people, 300 volunteers that we select a neighborhood in our service area. It's usually in the Southwest Detroit area. And we'll just go in, it's a good old fashioned Saturday, bring your garden tools and so forth. And we beautify the neighborhood, everything from helping people. I mean, last time we did this, we were actually, it usually happens in May and it was canceled this year because of COVID, but the year prior, and I know you were there with your family and I
Mhm.
appreciate that. We went out, everything from, cutting down overgrowth to helping homeowners paint their porches to, plant, bushes and flowers and that type of thing. And it really is a, wonderful connection with the community and they really appreciate it. So there are things that we do like that. We have, for people who want to give their time, at Paquette Square, Sherry Allen, who's really our volunteer, coordinator, has groups coming all the time because there's all kinds of projects, that are needed to help the veterans, at a place like Paquette Square. Um, we also have, opportunities in our learning labs. A lot of people volunteer just to help folks. English is a second language. And we've had a number of volunteers say, "Hey, I think I'd be interested to do that." So that's another effort. The other, I think, is on a broader level. We're, like I told you before, we're heavily, foundation and philanthropic supported. So some listeners may have, hearing what we do, may work for a company that has a development or foundation arm, or may have some connections for us that might be helpful to say, hey, Joe, you're in this work. I think you could connect with X, Y, and Z. That would be huge for us, then be able to, pursue some funding to support some of these programs, right? Um, I mean, short of, writing a check yourself, which we always love. In fact, we do have it's going to be probably a holiday campaign coming out right after Thanksgiving, which is our kind of our annual ask, to the community. And so we could probably put that link, Erica, or something in the newsletter
Yes,
podcast and get that out as well. So there's
absolutely.
different ways for people who might be interested.
Yeah, donations are certainly quite important to
Oh yeah.
sustain the mission and the work that Southwest Solutions does. And I will promote that as well. We have time for another question here. And I was
Sure.
wondering if you could tell us about a story. It doesn't necessarily need to be one person, but if there's somebody you're thinking of, that's on your mind that would really embody sort of the mission of what Southwest Solution does and that life changing work that you do. Would you like to share that with us?
Well, we have many stories,
Yeah.
and we have a great storyteller, I guess, Steve Palaktary, who's our sort of our marketing communications person, is phenomenal at this, and we put out stories all the time because that's how you communicate what you do, right? But I'm thinking of Daryl Evans, and Daryl's. We talk about Daryl because he's. I talked to him the other day. He allows us to share his story. He wants it out there. And we have many people who let us write about their story with the idea of it's going to help others see that, hey, maybe they're not the only one with this or that this or that problem. But Daryl, if I could summarize, really had a pretty tough start. He became estranged from his family. He's a Detroiter. Um, he ended up in his younger days of selling drugs, and then he became a user himself and really got caught up in that, and really got disenfranchised. Ended up becoming homeless, and finally, fast forward, found his way to, I think, through our housing resource center, to get some support for rapid rehousing and then permanent supportive housing. And along with that, we have some case managers, so you can get some case management support as well, helping you with other daily living kinds of things depending upon where you are. And so Daryl he tells the story. It took him about 6 months to actually get into his permanent supportive housing. So this is, as you know, from the work you do, things don't happen overnight. It takes time. There's
Mhm.
application process. You have to work through the system and what have you. But we stayed with him, and he did it. And long story short, he became wanted to give back. Um, he then served on an advisory, kind of a former consumer advisory group with HRC, and we just recently appointed him as a consumer board member
Mm.
to our Southwest Counseling Solutions board. So
Wow.
talk about that, right? And he has his own business. I think he got back together with one of his sons. They kind of have it's kind of a trash reclamation business, with some trucks. They'll go and help, clean out homes, take the stuff away. He's busy. And I just talked with him the other night, and he's really a great guy. And that's one of the examples of would have been probably a life lost, had he not been able to access services through Southwest Solutions, and as a success story, really. And
Wow.
I got 100 of these stories if you had all day. But that was one when you mentioned, it just came to mind. Daryl
Yeah.
Evans.
We will definitely have to have you back here. What an inspirational story. I'd love to meet him and just
Oh yeah,
really coming, full circle and showcasing the work that you do there and the whole team does. And Joe, just thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and for sharing the phenomenal, life-changing work that you and others a part of Southwest Solutions do day in and day out. And I look forward to watching the organization grow under your leadership and helping play a small role by volunteering with your upcoming events and programs.
great, Erica. Hey, thanks for giving us the opportunity to tell our story, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Take care and be safe.